One chip company is about to tell us whether the entire artificial intelligence boom still has room to run. Wall Street thinks it pulled in roughly $94 billion in a single 3-month stretch, and that would land well above the company's own forecast. That's Nvidia, reporting in 10 days, and it's the number everyone is watching to find out if the AI spending spree has a ceiling. We've got that, plus driverless cars spreading across California, a serious egg recall, and a promising new use for the weight loss drugs. Here's your Sunday. This is KnowFlo Daily. Good morning. It's Sunday, August 16th. Here are a few things worth having on your radar before we get into the day. First, a food safety warning worth acting on this morning. The Food and Drug Administration has upgraded an egg recall to Class 1, its most serious designation, which means eating the eggs could cause serious illness or even death. Nearly 100 salmonella cases have been reported across 17 states, with 26 people hospitalized, though no deaths so far. The eggs came from Texas farms and were sold at Kroger stores in Texas and Louisiana, and at Brookshire grocery stores across 6 states, under brands including Country Morning, Simple Truth, and Kroger. The cartons carry sell-by or best-by dates between July 20th and August 17th, so if you have cage-free eggs at home, this is the moment to go check the box. And this is a big recall. Depending on how you count, it covers well over 1 million dozen eggs, with some reports putting it as high as 19 million eggs. The company voluntarily pulled them in July after farm samples tested positive for salmonella. The FDA says this company's eggs may not account for every illness in the outbreak, and the investigation is still ongoing. Overseas, a Spanish fighter jet on NATO patrol shot down a drone over Romania early Sunday morning. Romania's defense ministry says the drone crossed in from neighboring Moldova around 4:45 in the morning, and 2 Spanish F-18 jets scrambled before one destroyed it over an unpopulated area. No one was hurt, and no property was damaged. It's the 4th drone Romania has downed this year, and its defense minister says the country is on the front line of NATO's eastern edge, with a border of more than 600 kilometers with Ukraine. This is not the first time either. Back in July, Romanian F-16 pilots shot down 3 Russian drones, the first time that had happened since Russia's invasion began. And this latest interception came during one of the heaviest nights of the war so far. Russia claims it shot down more than 800 Ukrainian drones overnight, while Ukraine says Russia fired more than 1,500 drones, nearly 1,600 guided bombs, and more than 60 missiles at it over just the past week. There were casualties reported on both sides. In business, investors are suing Selena Gomez over a mental health startup called Wondermind, which launched back in 2021. The federal lawsuit, filed Thursday, also names Gomez's mother and a business partner, and it claims the founders raised nearly $1.2 million by falsely promising partnerships with JP Morgan and Fidelity, along with an app the plaintiffs say was never actually built. The investors are not small players either. They include the chief executive of a major eye care company. They say they were told Gomez would serve as head of marketing, and that for 3 years, none of the founders told them the company was falling apart. They only learned it had collapsed from a magazine article. Gomez's lawyer calls the allegations completely meritless and plans to seek a dismissal, and the business partner says she categorically denies the claims. It's a cautionary tale about celebrity-backed startups and what happens when the promises get out ahead of the product. And a shakeup at the top in the energy world. ConocoPhillips says Chief Executive Ryan Lance will retire September 1st after 14 years running the company and more than 4 decades there, handing off to Finance Chief Andy O'Brien. Lance will stay on as Executive Chair. The timing is notable because it came alongside a strong quarter. ConocoPhillips reported net income of $3.9 billion, more than double a year earlier, and beat analyst expectations, driven mostly by higher oil prices. The average price it got was up about 36% from a year ago. As for the incoming boss, O'Brien has been with the company since 1997, working his way up through finance and strategy roles before becoming chief financial officer last year. He'll also join the board. The whole reshuffle lands as the energy sector navigates volatile prices and pressure to keep returning cash to shareholders. Now to our top story, and it's a big one for anyone who's ever watched a car drive itself down the street with nobody behind the wheel. California just cleared Waymo to run its driverless robotaxis across most of the state. The California Public Utilities Commission signed off on Friday, and the new service area is enormous. It stretches from Santa Clarita and Thousand Oaks down to San Diego in the south, and from Sacramento to San Jose in the north. That's 18 counties in all, including Orange, Riverside, Marin, and Napa. Waymo plans to launch in San Diego later this summer, and it says it will keep validating its technology in Sacramento before opening there. Right now, the company already operates in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Austin, Atlanta, and Phoenix, and it has its eye on Dallas, Miami, and Washington next. Waymo says the rollout will be gradual and guided by its safety framework. On that safety point, Waymo says its vehicles have been in an estimated 94% fewer serious injury crashes over the course of 220 million autonomous miles. The California Department of Motor Vehicles had already authorized parts of this expansion last year, so Friday's approval was the final green light. But it has not all been smooth. In San Francisco, several Waymos stalled in traffic during 4th of July celebrations, and the company pulled back service near Golden Gate Park during a big music festival. Back in June, it recalled nearly 4,000 robotaxis after more than a dozen of them drove into closed freeway construction zones. Even with those stumbles, this approval more than triples Waymo's California footprint, and it is one of the biggest green lights yet for self-driving cars on American roads. If you live in California, there's a real chance a car with no driver shows up for your next ride sooner than you thought. Okay, let's get into the stories driving the day, from the biggest earnings report on the calendar to a hopeful turn in medicine and a shakeup in crypto. Let's come back to that number from the top of the show. Nvidia reports earnings on August 26th, and analysts at UBS and Bank of America both expect revenue between $94 and $95 billion for the quarter. That's above Nvidia's own $91 billion guidance, and both banks think the company will steer even higher for the fall, somewhere around $107 to $108 billion. For perspective, Nvidia's revenue jumped 85% from a year earlier last quarter, and its data center business alone brought in more than $75 billion. Both banks are bullish on the stock, with price targets ranging from $280 all the way up to $350. The bigger story here is an artificial intelligence spending race that just keeps accelerating. Nvidia recently put a new networking platform into full mass production, with early customers including CoreWeave, Lambda, and Oracle. It says the platform uses far fewer lasers and a fraction of the power of the systems it replaces. And Nvidia has committed at least $6.5 billion to companies building photonics, the optical technology that moves data around inside these giant AI data centers, spreading roughly $2 billion each across several chip suppliers. One more data point on how big this is getting. Elon Musk's SpaceX reported its artificial intelligence business grew almost 250% last quarter, and said it now plans to buy only Nvidia systems going forward. Whether that breakneck pace can actually hold is exactly what Wall Street will be studying in 10 days. In health news, some early but genuinely promising research. Scientists are finding that the GLP-1 obesity medications, the same class as the popular weight loss shots, may help treat a hormonal condition that affects about 1 in 8 women worldwide. The condition used to be called polycystic ovary syndrome, and it was renamed earlier this year to move the focus away from the ovaries and cysts. What's interesting is how the drugs seem to work. It's not only weight loss, they also appear to improve insulin resistance and hormone balance, which are central to the disease. A clinic director in Colorado who has run 3 studies on this calls the results incredibly effective and exciting. There's a real catch, though. There's no cure yet, and a diagnosis often takes years because the symptoms overlap with so many other conditions and can get dismissed by doctors. The disorder also tends to run in families. One young woman in Colorado who took part in a study had struggled for years with weight gain and irregular periods, and her mother has the very same condition. But for the millions of women who have had very few good options, this counts as a hopeful step, and most women with the condition have insulin resistance, regardless of body size, which is exactly what these drugs target. Over in crypto, Binance is dropping 6 tokens from its spot market on Monday. The exchange says across protocol, Hashflow, PIVX, Vulcan Forged, Vanar, and Viction no longer meet its listing standards, things like development activity, trading volume, network security, and regulatory compliance. Prices fell hard on the announcement. PIVX dropped about 19%, Vulcan Forged fell more than 18%, and Hashflow sank to an all-time low. All 6 had already been flagged with Binance's monitoring tag, a label the exchange puts on tokens with elevated risk. Interestingly, not every token fell. Vanar actually climbed more than 8% despite the news. This is Binance's 4th big delisting round of the year, bringing the total to 21 tokens marked for removal in 2026. There are some housekeeping dates too. Deposits stop being credited after August 18th, and withdrawals close in mid-October. Binance also said it will not support one of the project's planned token migrations, so those holders will have to handle the swap themselves. The takeaway for anyone holding these is a familiar one. When a major exchange pulls a token, the liquidity can dry up fast, and the exit can get crowded. And one more sign of how much everyday investors are reshaping the markets. CME Group plans to start round-the-clock, 7-day-a-week trading for its silver futures beginning September 11th, pending a regulatory review. It follows strong demand for weekend trading in the company's 1-ounce gold contract, which launched back on July 24th. Since then, more than 53,000 of those contracts have traded on weekends, roughly $219 million worth, making it the largest source of regulated weekend liquidity for gold. The 100-ounce silver contract itself is fairly new, having launched in February. Retail investors have been CME's fastest growing group over the past decade, and the whole idea is to let regular people manage their positions and react to news whenever it breaks, even when the traditional markets would normally be closed. Before we wrap, here's the rest of the day at speed. LeBron James is launching a YouTube channel, and it's about golf, not basketball. The very first episode is a 96-minute reunion of the 2016 championship Cavaliers, playing a course in Scotland to mark the 10th anniversary of that title. LeBron says he's about a 22 handicap and that he wants to open the sport up to more kids from the inner city. New episodes will drop monthly. Gamers mark September 24th. Creative Assembly says the new Lords of the End Times expansion for Total War Warhammer 3 is the biggest add-on in the series' 10-year history, adding 4 new legendary lords. And for the first time ever, you won't need to own the base game to play it. And a quick market stat to close the loop on that trading theme. Same-day options, the contracts that expire within 24 hours, just hit a record. In July, they made up more than 66% of all S&P 500 options volume. It's one more sign that traders keep chasing faster and faster bets. That's the news for Sunday, August 16th. A day defined by Waymo's robotaxis spreading across California, sky-high expectations for Nvidia's earnings, a serious egg recall worth checking your fridge for, and a NATO jet downing a drone over Romania. We also touched on a hopeful new treatment for a common hormonal condition, a big crypto shakeup, and LeBron trading the court for the golf course. We'll be back tomorrow morning with a fresh rundown. That was KnowFlo Daily. Sign up for your personalized newsletter at knowflo.io. News picked for you, your local news included, free.